Steve Jobs stood on stage at Apple's annual conference in 2010. He was holding the first ever iPad. He called it miraculous, a device that would transform the way we consume media. There would be one in every home. A few months later, a New York Times reporter casually asked him, "Your kids must love the iPad, right?" He replied, "Actually, no, they haven't used it." Steve Jobs knew then what most of us did not. The sleek, polished personal technology was designed to be addictive. As someone who studied the brain for the past 10 years, I sometimes feel like I'm standing at a railroad crossing, wanting to hide my eyes as the freight train of technology barrels towards humanity. Everyone else is eyes down, scrolling shorts, too consumed to look up and see what's coming for us. It's been 15 years since the iPad was introduced and smartphone technology exploded. Now we're starting to see the impact. Our screens aren't just hijacking our focus. They're changing the way we relate, partner, and make decisions about our future. Our phones are more than a distraction. They're contributing to the birth rate decline. In 2007, the year the first iPhone was introduced, each woman had an average of 2.12 children. By 2023, that number was just 1.62. The US total fertility rate has been steadily declining. Though there was one notable bump between 2020 and 2021, all of us were stuck at home with each other during COVID. In all seriousness, though, we are now well below the replacement rate, meaning we're not making enough babies to replace our adult population. You might think, okay, fewer kids, less crowding, maybe that's better for the planet. But a declining birth rate comes with serious real-life consequences. Think about it. You have an aging population putting added pressure on our healthcare and retirement systems. At the same time, you have fewer young people entering the workforce to drive labor, innovation, and the economy. All of this squeezes our public resources and limits what we can spend on for the future, on things like education, infrastructure, and climate solutions. So why is the birth rate declining? We hear the same explanations over and over again. Anxiety about the economy, increased access to contraception, shifting values, later marriages, career pressure. All of those reasons are part of the story. They're not the whole story. If those were the only factors, the change wouldn't be so sudden or so widespread. Dr. Alice Evans, a social scientist and fertility researcher at King's College London, points out that the steepest drop in global fertility over the past 15 years maps almost perfectly with the rise in usage of the smartphone. She highlights that the one area in the world where the birth rate is still increasing is sub-Saharan Africa, where widespread smartphone access is still limited. Everywhere else, smartphone penetration is a global phenomenon. So is the birth rate decline. It's not just that we're consciously choosing to have smaller families and fewer children. It's that we're unconsciously choosing digital solitude, the devices in our hands, over real-life intimacy and connection. Our phones are changing our brains. They're shrinking our attention spans. It's hard to sit nowadays for a full-length TEDx talk, let alone be present for a heart-to-heart conversation with a loved one that lays the foundation for a decades-long relationship that ultimately bears children. Our phones make us expect instant gratification. It's so easy to pick up our phone, get that quick hit of dopamine, that we avoid the hard, vulnerable work of getting out there, meeting people, building new relationships, and working through conflict. Perhaps most dangerously, our phones create an echo chamber of our own thoughts and opinions. Your For You feed on social media shows you exactly what you love. ChatGPT reflects back to you exactly what you want to hear. It might feel reassuring, but it's actually technology further entrenching us in our own silos and making us unwilling to listen to and connect with people of other worldviews, opinions, and life experiences. All of these brain changes cumulatively are impacting our social structures, how we relate, and how we partner. Which is why we're in a relationship recession. Over half of Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 are single. They're neither cohabitating nor married. Being single longer means fewer children. One reason for this could be the rise in online dating. In 2007, just 15% of couples met online. I remember even in 2016, one of my best friends got married and we all called her Tinderella the whole weekend. She got married on Tinder, got met on Tinder, it was pretty scandalous. Think about it, today in 2025, it's the norm. Over half of couples meet online today. It's like the prerequisite for finding your person. At least that's what Bumble's latest marketing would want you to think. Why wait for fate? Download their app. But there's a dark side to the seemingly ubiquitous dating apps. They gamify connection, taking something magical, human, that moment of first meeting, and reduce it to a shallow swipe left or swipe right moment. It's no wonder that singles today are overwhelmed by decision fatigue, tired of the endless profiles, the sketchy chats that feel like a full-time job. Despite this, I know several women in their 30s who are beautiful, successful, capable. They can't wait to have kids, but they're so sick of online dating because it often leads to burnout. As one NPR podcast guest put it on It's Been a Minute, online dating is the only thing you can put 10,000 hours into and end up right back where you started. Even if you can get through those hours and find your person, your phone still might physiologically impact your fertility. We know that excessive screen time can cause sleep disruption and hormonal imbalance. Men who use screens late at night show decreased sperm quality. There are even new directives cautioning pregnant women against the excessive use of screen time because it might impact fetal development. It's not just that our phones are preventing or delaying connection, they might be physically impacting our readiness for parenthood. Let's talk about the intimacy interruption. What's happening, or really, what's not really happening that much anymore behind closed doors? Couples today often lie in bed beside each other, both on their own device. That's not connection, that's digital solitude. Between Netflix, Pornhub, TikTok, online shopping, all of these super engaging apps draw our attention and compete with real-life intimacy. They often win. It's no surprise that over 50% of adults say they'd rather give up sex for a month than give up their smartphone for a month. Nearly 3/4 of couples say that technology interferes in their relationship. In other words, a lot of us are getting phubbed. Phubbed, phone plus snubbed, means being ignored by someone in favor of their smartphone. It's correlated with resentment, loneliness, and lack of satisfaction in intimate relationships. Phones promise us connection. So often they deliver something else entirely. We can't talk about our future without talking about our children. If we as adults are this impacted by these devices with just 15 or 20 years of having them, what happens to the next generation who's had access to them since birth? My toddler's Montessori teacher says it best. It's not about the screens, it's what they are replacing. Technology is designed to make things easy and frictionless, but in doing so, it robs us of the opportunity to practice the hard stuff. Play, imagination, creativity, boredom, intimacy, conflict resolution, even struggle. All of these uniquely human skills that are the building blocks for relationships and ultimately partnership and families. As subsequent generations become more comfortable with their phones and devices than with each other, how does that continue to impact our birth rate and our humanity? I wish I had all the answers for you, but I do know this. The solution probably isn't in another app or AI-generated online dating profile. It's in the small, brave, real-life choices we make. One thing we can do is support the people in our lives who want to be parents, even if their version doesn't look traditional. I know for our family, it really does take a village between family, friends, and caregivers. We need to normalize this parenting model and help other people create their villages. Imagine if parenting were less of a private struggle and more of a collective joy. Another brave choice we can make is setting boundaries with our devices, individually, at a family level, a community level, maybe even a government level. Let's use our phones, but not let them use us. Perhaps most importantly, we need to get back out into the physical world. Think about the things you did more of before COVID. Go to that weekly class for your community or hobby. Host that dinner party or that game night. Call a friend on the phone like the old days. Go to that networking event where you feel awkward because you don't know anyone. Because connection can't be fully outsourced. So far, making babies can't be fully outsourced yet either. I would know. The irony is not lost on me that I'm giving this talk about the birth rate 6 months pregnant. My wife and I love babies. We love our non-traditional family model with a teenager, a toddler, and one on the way. We are so glad that parenting is a choice. It's a choice we make every single day. If you want to make that choice, you might have to do something hard and brave. Log off, look up, make space for intimacy and vulnerability again. We don't need to reject technology and become hermits or be afraid of our smartphones. But we do need to remember the most miraculous connections can't happen through a screen. They happen when we're face to face, heart to heart, partner to partner, parent to child. This messy, wonderful physical intimacy is still how we create and nurture life. If Steve Jobs were alive today, watching the birth rate decline, I think he'd remind us. Technology will always evolve. It can be a partner to you, but it can't replace your partner. And it can't replace our humanity.